I think it boils down to have AI drafts to start with, and then human proofreading. Start there, especially on the agency side. If we're producing content for our clients, make it as authentic as we can, but then have them take a look at it because we may think that the AI pulled in some really cool facts and ideas and different things, and our client might go, "Oh my gosh, no, don't publish that." So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of human in the loop, as we've talked about for a long time.
This is AI Marketing Experts, where bold marketers and next-gen AI collide. Each week, join us as we decode trends, test tools, and share real wins from the AI-powered front lines. No fluff, no hype, just straight talk and smarter marketing. Tap subscribe, and let's geek out on AI.
Well, get this. Google just deleted over 240 million reviews in the last year. Amazon deleted 275 million. Reddit has built its own AI specifically to hunt down and remove AI-generated marketing garbage, we're going to call slop from this point forward, on its platform. This isn't small cleanups. This is a mass extinction event for low-quality AI content, and it's happening right now. The question we're answering today is simple. If the platforms are deleting this AI slop by the millions, how do you know if your content is on the list? So with that said, John here from Carpet Cleaner Marketing Masters, got my fine, distinguished friends. The entire team is in the house, and we are going to tackle the AI slop problem. I just want to kind of put it out there. Who wants to jump in? Anybody had a client or a prospect you've talked to say that, hey, no, I don't need content. I have ChatGPT writing me 10 articles a day. I'm good, or anything like that. And you hit your radar in the last 6 months. What do you think of AI slop?
Nobody jump in.
At once.
I think we have so much to say. We don't know who wants to go first.
There's a lot to say about this topic.
Yes.
There's a lot of slop out there. I find it really interesting that Reddit, which we all know, let me back up for 1 second and say, for those listening or watching, if you don't know Reddit, it's basically, think the old school forums where people talk back and forth. They ask questions. They have threads that are themes and things like that. So Reddit has been fantastic for a lot of years, but they say like marketers ruin everything. But you didn't hear that from me. Marketers have used Reddit to what do you say? Marketers have added their kind of everything we do, the stuff to get links and things like that, because Reddit is valuable, because it's actual people talking. A lot of people have been, businesses, what has been happening there is that people are using AI to write slop and get it published in Reddit forums, which are supposed to be so valuable. And so Reddit, though, fed up with it, is building its own AI to combat AI. That was a long intro to that one little point that I was trying to make, but I think it's worth really, what do they say, double clicking on that?
Yeah. No, I think that's cool. Where we're heading is that it's a mess. Like Twitter, X, it's like if you're on X, you've got to start unfollowing accounts because or themes and stuff like that, because it's like, oh, hey, I just saw this video and here's my entire guide on it. Because you can spin them up in seconds. And you'll see 10 of the exact same video. Boris Cheney or Cherney, whatever his name is, did a speech, and all of a sudden there's 10 people, put the word this in the comments, say this, do that, and I will send you my full this and whatever. And it's just vomited there. And yeah, right now you have to manually do it. AI is going to be like, any of these platforms are going to go, oh, they're pissing you off. Here, click this and delete all of them, or remove all of them. May 8th, Google did a big update for SEO, Chris, as we know, and they basically said any content that is meaningless in our world, you got 20, 50, 100, 300, 500, 10,000 upholstery cleaning pages that all seem pretty much exactly the same across all companies, only difference being the name of the city in it. Google said, like, in the AI search, we're not going to surface all of those because it's all meaningless. So we'll pick real stuff, and the rest of you don't even show up. So what have you noticed, Chris, in slop and the response to slop?
Well, I mean, that's a loaded question, right? I mean, there are lots of avenues that slop can happen. Obviously, we're talking Reddit, then we're talking SEO, landing pages, where content itself in general that is, in my opinion, generic, right, and adds zero value to the world, I think is what's going to be targeted and what has been targeted. So, and there's tells, right? There's tells. If you just take something straight from ChatGPT, and we talk about this all the time, just making sure that you have your master prompt in and so forth. But one of the things that I've been working on for the past, 2 months is these agents to help create content, right? But the problem becomes, well, how do we get rid of those tells? And so I built an AI tell skill that it essentially goes in and strips out all that junk, right? The things like the biggest one to me is the EM dashes, right? That stand out. Everyone used to love those until AI came along. Now they're like, that's an easy tell that was created by ChatGPT or something like that, right? So I think if you have that, and then the other thing that I created was a way to take my voice, right, for at least in my blogs, right, when I'm going through and generating content for my blogs, make sure that it actually comes out in my voice. Okay. And how did I do that? Well, I fed it information on how I wrote, like, for instance, my book, and gave it all of that information, and it had it basically transcribe it and figure out, okay, well, his writing style is X, Y, and Z, right? And then I added a few other things to it, like, I don't say I do not, right? Versus I don't, or I won't is not I will not, right? It's I speak, the way that I speak and the way that I write is in conjunctions. So, make sure that anything that comes out has conjunctions. That's what those are called, right? With the won't
Contractions.
Contractions.
Close,
The other way,
right?
yeah.
Close.
I haven't taken English in 30 plus years. So
remember the Saturday morning cartoon, Conjunction Junction.
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah. So, but I think that's one way around it, right? But there's all sorts of avenues that it applies. So if you can create this skill, this way for your AI not to write like AI, you can apply that to every single bit of your content.
Yeah. And Laura, what do you say? Like, what defines AI slop? Sorry, Jen. I was just going to get.
Well,
I
was just going to say that the fact that it became very easy for businesses to put out a lot of blogs, 10 blogs a day. I mean, really just put it out there. But the thing is that, I mean, we've said it many times, AI is here to help. It's a nice tool. Obviously, we want to take it to different steps with the agents and areas that can really help be very efficient. But to Chris's point, if it's not speaking our language and have our voice, it comes back to having a human going through it to make sure that what you have online amplifies your voice in the manner that you want. If you're speaking face to face with someone, having that conversation with the client, you want that pulled all the way through. And if what you're putting online can be said about any business in your area or any competitor, it is what we consider slop, what we consider not authentic to you. What problems are you solving? How are you solving them? Because any conversation you have, you pick up what your, in my case, growers are asking, what your customers are asking, what your clients are asking, and you know how to provide the solution that works best for them. So we're talking not just go ahead and just add a bunch of blogs because you can. You can go ahead and generate a lot of blogs, but make sure it's authentic and it amplifies your voice. And in the past, I know we've talked about, look at those personality courses that you've taken, or they give you your personality traits back. That is a very easy way. pick out those best emails that you've sent, pick out those best customer replies that you've sent. Again, to Chris's point, it has your tone, your voice, how you solve problems, whether you're more of a bulleted point person, whether you are more at that fluff and the information that really builds that story for your clientele. Maybe that's an industry that works really well with that story, but you want to make sure it's authentic, and you're going to limit the opportunity for Google to say, this isn't a real person, we're going to take it down. So I know we started talking about the different areas with reviews, or excuse me, with like Reddit and blogs, but we got to consider testimonials and Google reviews, because that's an area that businesses thought, ooh, this is an easy button, I'll just have a bunch of them generated. And those are being removed in large volumes.
They are. And there's a reason why a lot of the end of my blog posts with a really good master prompt end with the, hey, here's all the great stuff we just talked about, and now it's your turn. Go nuts. So with that said, Jen, go nuts. You're about to say something. What's your input?
Well, I was just going to say how important it is to refer to your personal experience, because that makes it not AI slop. The agent that I built, a lot like Chris's, it writes posts, social media, blog posts, all the things in my voice, but it also pulls in any it actually goes through our project posts, our case studies, things like that it can go through and figure out which one will work best with whatever the I'll talk blog posts here, not social media, but which one will go best with that blog post, and it will refer to it, it'll mention it. So it's using our actual experience inside the blog post. Sometimes it can only like go together slightly. Like AI can find a reason to make a case study or a project post can make it work with whatever the topic is. So that's all I was going to say. Use your experience.
I think that's cool because, yeah, like think of it this way. If you had a whole bunch of case studies as one thing you did, had AI help you write them, but create case studies of a job. And then you're creating blog posts in our world, carpet cleaning. You have a whole bunch of case studies about pet urine and, helping Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Smith and all that kind of stuff. And then you write a blog post article, or your agency does for you, about pet urine, and just like one of those fuller, more expansive articles, but you've already given it all your case studies, all your project posts, all your history. Now it's going to say, that's like, I remember when we did this. And AI is going to help you write a post that sounds like you really wrote it because it's in your voice, it's using your case studies, it knows your entire company and stuff like that. So we're going to jump on to Brad because we haven't heard from you yet. What's your whole idea or thoughts around the AI slop conundrum?
Absolutely. And just for clarification, I heard Laura talking before, but she seems frozen. Is she frozen to y'all?
No, we got her.
No,
Okay.
not now.
There you have it. So here's my take on this. So as everybody on this call, we've been in this industry for a long time. And it seemed like in years past, I can go back as far as 15, 16, 17 years ago, something that was kind of well known and popular for creating content and articles was spinning software. So with spinners, as we called them, you could, you had to write in this certain little language and put all these little code pieces in there so that it would then take an article and turn it into 100 articles, because it had all these little pipes and, different, when I say pipes on your keyboard. So it had different codes in there so that you could make it say all these different things. So it could be unique. Right. And so spinners, I imagine they still exist to some extent. Maybe there's some AI spinners now. But the bottom line is there have been ways to manipulate content and try to make it look real and get as much content out there as you could, and all these different strategies. So now, with AI being at the forefront, and in our case, the group here, we've all been exposed and using these tools as they evolve for years now, a couple years. Um, there's so many different ways you can go about this. Like literally this week, we were creating some realistic videos of me walking around an auto repair shop and talking and all these things. And it wasn't really me, but it looks so real. I mean, it is mind boggling. Same with written content. You know, so many people have been trying to game the system now, whether it's Reddit, whether it's reviews, whether it's social media, like John mentioned. Um, you know, there's just so many in articles and SEO. There's all these different things that people are trying to game the system, which is there's always been that level or that layer of folks who try to, you know, manipulate. And so the answer or the takeaway here is, you know, if you're going to use an AI tool for any sort of content, written content, graphics, video, whatever it is, you still have to put your own spin on it. You still have to have your authenticity, whether it's your own or your agency's doing it for your company, whatever it is. There just has to be that layer and that level of you've got to proofread it. You've got to, like has been mentioned, take out the M dashes and maybe the ending where it's always going to say conclusion or key takeaways. I mean, some of these things are used every time or a lot by the different LLMs. And you just have to, it's important that you go in there and you change things up. You know, some people, and you can manipulate, say we're going to do 50 city pages and it's all going to be the same content, except we're going to change the name on all these pages to that specific city. Well, that tactic isn't really going to fly anymore, but people are still doing it. So at the end of the day, you've got to watch closely what you're putting out there. You know, we've seen a lot of stuff getting taken down. We've even seen fines. I mean, there have been fines from the FTC for different things, and I'm not going to go down that road because I'm not an expert on that, but you just have to be cautious. You know, I think a lot of it was for fake reviews and different things like that. It's just not a good idea. Use AI as your ally, but use it smartly.
Yeah. I think it's good because the FTC has a penalty of $51,000 per violation for fake reviews and fake testimonials. Because that's a big one that people get, like big marketers get called out on, but who knows how far down the chain they go. But where if I don't know, you name it, Hush Puppy shoes. I don't know, do they still exist? But if they started putting out fake reviews and fake stuff like that, they get found, they get slapped, and it's huge. It becomes a warning for everybody else because those are on the books. But yeah, you can't be the local repair shop, roofer, carpet cleaner that says, oh, here, like again, Google, you need a verified Google review, but you can fake reviews all over your website. Most people don't trust reviews on a website because they're cherry picked or they're fake, right? So you want to be a little bit more authentic that way. But what are some of the other action plans small business can do? Because now we know, like, it's what I guess the one point I wanted to make was back in the, like Brad was talking about spinners and stuff like that, where you could take one article, and we used to do it too when I first learned internet marketing and tried to do affiliate marketing and all that kind of stuff in the mid 2000s. We would take one article and spin it to 1,000 different articles, because you'd switch this word up and switch that word up, and next thing you know, you had 1,000 words in the article switched up. Well, you could make infinite versions of it. They read terribly. You couldn't read the second, third, fourth version clearly at all. It became a science on how to spin better. But the thing is, it worked for a long time, because the act of coding an algorithm and changing it to find that took like years. Like Google Panda and Penguin were years between. Like it was just this thing. AI is now like that. Like, oh, there's a problem, fix that. Next thing you know, a month later, that entire thing has been wiped out. So if you think you're gaming the system, don't try and game the system. Be real, be authentic. So what are some of the things that we could do as an action plan for a small business that is now listening to this, or an agency owner? Now listening to going, dang, wow, I thought I had a little bit more run room than that. I thought I had another year or two before I had to take down all the dribble I put up. What should they do? Who wants to handle that one?
I would say if you are generating any or know of anybody that's assisting your business, if you know that they're generating any kind of reviews that may be fake or perceived as fake, stop that immediately. That's the first thing. If you're a business that collects authentic reviews, know that you're ahead of anybody that is trying to, as you said, game the system, jump ahead. Take the time to look at what reviews are out there. And we're talking, not only Google, but Facebook, look at industry sites where your reviews might be, but look at the big picture. And again, keep it authentic. Keep asking for those reviews because again, they are valuable. You do want those to be posted. You want to see that they're consistent and they're coming in with specific elements of the problems or the problems you solve or the services you offer. So take the time to review what's already out there on your digital footprint is what I'll start with.
And Chris, do you think we could run even just a simple prompt in something like Cowork or Manus or something that's a little more agentic and runs through and say, hey, can you review all my blog posts and find the ones that are definitely AI crap that wouldn't be acceptable today? Maybe give it a guideline from Google or something and just say go, and then you can go have lunch and go for a walk and watch the eagles fly over the river and come back and go thank you because it went through all 552 of your blog posts and flagged 497 of them as being not worth it anymore.
Absolutely. So I've got a story here, right? I've got way back in the day, of course, we've been talking about spinning. We've been talking about, gaming the system really is really what it's all been about. And that's what search engine optimization has been about since the very beginning of it, right? Because marketers, right, mess everything up. And so therefore every single marketer out there would figure out what it was, or they would hear a tactic, right? A strategy to game the system. And then it's like all in. And then everyone in the entire marketing, agency world would just go and do that. Right. Well, a lot of times that just comes back and bites you. So the story I have here is that I've got a former client, right, that when we took over their blog, okay, because in the marketing world, if you don't know, if you're just watching this, blogs are a very central part of most marketing strategies still today. Well, this guy had paid for some definite AI slop, right? And it was posting an article every single day. And it was very cheap. It was obviously done overseas using Chat GPT, a very generic, version. And they were just pumping these things out. I'm pretty sure the service that he paid for was like $30 a month or something like that, right? And they just simply plugged into his thing. Someone just, copied and pasted 30 articles and scheduled those things out. When I came across that, I was like, man, you've got to get rid of this stuff. This is going to hurt you, more than it's going to help you. And I pointed it out to him and showed him and all of these things. And, he just didn't listen. So anyways, fast forward about a year and we're no longer working with him, but we still track all rankings for all clients and stuff like that. Right. I went and looked at his rankings. Holy cow. He went from being top, right, to just dropping like a rock. And this was probably 3 or 4 months ago that I noticed that. And probably about the same time that all these helpful content, updates have been coming around from Google. So, I mean, it's very, very true. It can hurt you, and it can hurt you in a bad way because recovering from that is ridiculously hard, right? So it's easier just to delete all of that stuff and start over from scratch.
And you tapped into something really interesting because it's been on my brain. It's been on my vocabulary lately. I learned the name for the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? So this is a guy that didn't even finish high school, went on the road. I was Ron Wood in a Rolling Stones cover band for a bunch of years and all that stuff. And so I learned this stuff later in life, apparently. But Dunning-Kruger is that whole idea where the less you know about something, the more confidently ignorant, I don't mean rude, I mean like just, not naive, you are about something. And the more you learn, the more you get into like the pit of despair, they call it. And then you finally realize, okay, there's a there, but it's nowhere near where I was. Right. And we do run into that. Like agencies, as an example, when you're dealing with clients, should be talking about content integrity as a service. And how do you explain to a client like that heard, $30, that should be my marketing content plan, right? Why would this one company charge $5,000 to do SEO when I can do it here for $30, right? And they believe that to their core. And they get away with it because there might be a little window where the window is open and they do get away with it. And then when it shuts, they, like now all of a sudden the great reckoning happens and it's too late. So with agencies have got to learn as well how to articulate this and what content integrity is, and make that proof case so much better about all of these fines and the fakeness and the algorithm changes, and say, hey, it's not me that's telling you this, it is Google and the bigger world. So any other tips for people working with agencies or agency themselves to make sure that you're at least working with somebody who understands what we just said?
I think it boils down to have AI drafts to start with, and then human proofreading. Start there, especially on the agency side. If we're producing content for our clients, make it as authentic as we can, but then have them take a look at it, because we may think that the AI pulled in some really cool facts and ideas and different things, and our client might go, "Oh my gosh, no, don't publish that." So yeah, it's just a matter of human in the loop, as we've talked about for a long time.
That's a good rule. What's another one?
Laura mentioned this, and I want to make sure we highlight it, because as we're talking about testimonials, whether they're Google reviews, Facebook, anything like that, historically as marketers, we're all like, get reviews, like we pound it down our clients' throats, get more reviews. But this is a very good time to look at the messaging that you are using, whether it's for your business or if you're an agency doing it for others. Look at the messaging that you're using in those communications and see if you're asking that customer to just leave a review, or if you are giving them a little bit of guidance on be specific, like mention the service, mention what we did for you. But you don't want to tell them what to write, but having that specificity in the review is going to make a big difference. And so in your messaging, make sure that you're asking for specifics.
So we got drafts, keep the human in the loop. So AI does the draft. Be specific on anything. And I would say specificity even over volume, right? So on anything that we do, it's be better now. Like just be better, deeper, real. So what's another one?
So I want to touch one real quick. This is an easy tip, and it's something that nobody does, right? And I always tell my roofers, do what everyone else is not doing. Okay. Videos. Take that $1,000 machine sitting in your pocket, right? Take it out of your pocket, turn it around, and talk to it. And you're going to suck at first, but you're going to get better at it. But I say that because nobody is doing that right now. And the ones that are doing it, right? And taking that content, posting it to YouTube, post it to your blog, post it to your socials, right? It's actually you versus AI junk. And yes, you could fake it using something like Hey Jen or something like that, right? But I think that those that are actually truly 100% authentic, going out there and using these tools that are available to every single person on the planet, right, to create that content and educate your clients, those are the ones that are going to win in this AI race, I think.
Yeah. Completely step outside. It's like we even say with voice, like you can have voice agents answer your phone, but if you have real people that they can hand off to, or real people first and voices third number rollover ring, you're not trying to hide behind another game. Stop trying to hide behind a game and a tactic is, I think, the message of this, how to beat AI slop. So you're going to say something, Laura, I think?
I was just going to say, to echo what Chris just mentioned, is you're correct. Take that video, delete it, and then take another video and delete it, and take it again and delete it until you've built that comfort zone. But it is the ums show that you're authentic. The stumbling over your words show that you're authentic. People relate to that if it's not overproduced. And again, it's an area that does help with the stories behind your business, the stories about what you're solving, how you're working with your clients, what they're asking you about. And sometimes I know our clients, they find that much easier because they're always answering questions to their clients. So when we ask them, they're able to just roll with it, and they're able to put the specific information, like Jen was saying, in there. So they're mentioning manufacturers, they're mentioning what they saw this season, they were mentioning what they're looking for next season, what solutions work. So it all comes together nice and tighter, I guess we'll say, when it is video recorded. And then from there, of course, you can break it down. If we're looking for that authentic content, you can use it elsewhere, build on a blog. But having that video, that conversation, brings that story to life quickly.
And it creates a library. Like if you like, we've talked about that before. One of the fellows in one of our masterminds that we're all in does that, where he, again, lawyers, we talked about it on another episode. He sits them down every 90 days or whatever, and painfully has them interviewed for an hour or two or whatever it was, because he needs their voice to then create real content off of. So if you're doing that, Chris's exact strategy, actually being real, and then just, you've got a library of them on YouTube. It doesn't mean this isn't something separate. This isn't a database. You don't have to wire up a Obsidian wiki and figure out, RAG systems and all that. We're saying have an AI go look at your last 20 YouTube video transcripts, pull it, and say, can you put that into a my voice document, please? Right? Exactly. Just that simple. You recorded it, one extra step, you've now got a bit of and you can just keep doing that. Hey, can you write me a couple of blog posts about the stuff I'm talking about in my voice, telling my stories? Thanks. And then you still human in the loop. Don't say, and publish them automatically by yourself. No, that's a draft, like Brad said, and then review it, play with it a bit. Mm-hmm. So, and then do an audit. I do suggest you do an audit of your past stuff, because as Chris's other story stated, you could have a bunch of stuff that's hurting you, and no amount of good is going to outweigh the bad, right? So, oh, my marketing agency sucks. Well, no, you told us not to take down all the stuff that makes you suck. So we're just doing the best to make you suck a little less. So anyways, so now with that, we might have, covered the topic well. Has anybody got any famous last words on this topic before we give it a wrap and let people on with their day to go fix their AI slop?
I'll just echo, be proactive. It is your footprint out there. It's your presence. So take the time, like you said, drop in a prompt for AI to help you review things, but be proactive.
And where can they go to learn about prompting and maybe get some show notes and, kind of join a community that might be talking about all of this stuff? Anybody got any ideas? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
I think you should tell us about it, John.
maybe go to the AI marketing experts community that we have, where you're going to have the Take Action with Amy notes, a little bit more background on what we just talked about here, ask your questions, join the club, all that kind of stuff. We'd love to have you in there. It's in the any description you've got here, aimarketingexperts.net. You can join through there. All of our episodes are up there as well, with fuller content all around it. So, and yes, we practice what we preach. We create content that is built around all the well done training, and then it is edited, human in the loop, to make sure it is what we want to put out there, because we don't want to embarrass ourselves either, like you don't want to be embarrassing yourself. So with that said, if everybody's good with that, I think we call it a wrap and let the people go off to their day and figure out how they're going to be more authentic in this digital world.
Don't forget to like, share, tell your friends. We'll talk to you next week.
See you next time.